We are right on the facts. We're right on the Constitution. We are right in public opinion, but importantly, we're right on common sense. And these are the kind of issues that even conservatives and liberals can agree on. And so, I don't go into any argument assuming that I'm going to lose anybody. And so it is our mission and our goal to make sure that this case is decided in our favor. And we believe very, very strongly in our arguments. So we're looking for a 9-0 decision, and we feel really good about it.
That's West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey commenting about the U.S. Supreme Court arguing 2 cases on transgender athlete laws passed in West Virginia and Idaho. The laws banning transgender athletes from competing in girls' or women's sports. Lower courts separately blocking both laws from going into effect. The state's appealing all the way up to the high court. The justices will decide if the laws violate the Constitution or violate Title IX. Rulings on these cases expected early summer. But again, we've heard the oral arguments already. And we'll welcome in now West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey. AG, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. So after nearly what seems, I believe, 3.5 hours of arguments, the Supreme Court, it does seem likely to uphold the laws that prohibit biological men and boys from competing on women's and girls' school sports teams. Can you share with, and I know we heard you there in that moment, can you share with what we've heard so far, the line of questioning from the justices and what that says to you, sir?
Yeah, so the justices were incredibly thorough yesterday in both cases. And what we saw was their attempt to try to get the ACLU to explain what their position was. And all we heard from the ACLU was essentially that these laws do not violate Title IX. These laws are not violative of the Equal Protection Clause, but they believe that there is this enormously small subset of people who would be affected by these laws. And that subset of people, sort of strangely, is young children, kids as young as 7 years old, whose parents have decided to begin transitioning them in 1st and in 2nd grade. And so what they're saying is that if you are able to block puberty for a child who is in 1st or 2nd grade, that it is unfair to make that boy whose parents have taken all of their testosterone away from playing on the boys' team because they don't have some kind of a competitive advantage because of these medical procedures. And that is, quite frankly, insane.
Let me play this for you and for our viewers. It's a clip of Justice Samuel Alito asking the plaintiff's attorney the seemingly simple question of how they define a man or a woman.
We do not have a definition for the court, and we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
And I would actually pose that question to you. I mean, it almost seemed rhetorical in that moment. How can you determine discrimination on the basis of sex if you cannot define a man or a woman?
Well, first of all, we know that Justice Brown Jackson didn't define the word sex in her Senate hearing. But what's really interesting there is the contradiction that the ACLU lawyer makes even in her own answer. She says, we don't have a definition of sex, and then goes on to say birth sex males. So she's defining the term in her answer while simultaneously saying that she doesn't have one. And so what they're really looking for is they don't want to tell the court what they think sex is because they know they will lose. And so they're really trying to find an end run around the idea that sex has no definition in the entire language, and we know that's crazy. What we know is that the Congress, when they enacted Title IX, was using the common definition of the word sex as found in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, which is, what are your chromosomes at birth? And that is just a simple, easy definition, and it's a definition that gives us the capability to pass common sense laws that protect women and girls in sports and in all the spaces where size and strength and speed matter.
And you mentioned Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She was on mic defending men and women's sports with a sort of word salad, if you will, during the Supreme Court hearing. Listen to this.
It is treating someone who is transgender but who does not have, because of the medical interventions and the things that have been done, who does not have the same threat to physical competition and safety and all of the reasons that the state puts forward, that's actually a different class, says this individual. So you're not treating the class the same, and you're not, how do you respond to that?
I mean, even I'm confused listening back to that. AG, your thoughts on the justice?
Well, as an initial matter, if your statement before your question is longer than your question, you've probably missed the point in totality. But that gets back to my first point. She's saying there is a different class of people that need to be treated differently. And what she's burying there in the lead is that that class of people is young children who have been given hormone blockers in first or second grade or even younger than that. And so the entirety of their argument was trying to whittle down the idea of Title IX and equal protection into this tiny subset of people whose parents are willing to give them puberty blockers that will change their biology in their body for the rest of their life. It's a choice that is made for a child on their behalf by their parents, which will ensure that they never have a traditional biological adolescence, right? And so, that is very concerning to me. The age of the children that they were talking about concerns me very, very greatly, because they know that adult trans folks, people who've made this decision as a grown-up, do have the physical advantages that we are specifically trying to avoid.
We appreciate the time. Attorney General of West Virginia, J.B. McCuskey. AG, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.